and welcome to, well, we are missing one of our wild women of podcasting. It is just going to be Carla and I, but that's still amazing. Carla, I haven't seen Carla in so long. It's been like, because she was on everything and then she just disappeared and decided she didn't want to be my friend anymore, I guess, or she didn't want to co-host with me anymore. So I'm glad to see her again, but in just a second. But we are going to talk about Yellowjackets, season 2 specifically, and we are going to be spoiling things. So if you haven't seen the episodes, go watch and then come back and watch our live. We are going to do a Yellowjackets episode that will cover both seasons this summer. So look for that. And that will also feature Carla and Jen, who are the wild women of podcasting. But Jen, sadly, is not feeling well. So she will not be joining us, which is very sad because I miss my wild women of podcasting. But she's returned. She's finally decided she wants to be back on the podcast. My unofficial co-host, Carla.
Hello.
Hi.
I'm a work in progress tonight.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi. It's so good to see you. What's so funny though, everybody, is Carla and I talk like every day.
We constantly message each other and we send each other TikToks. It's like a nonstop, but like seeing each other's faces has not happened.
Yes.
In like a month and a half.
Yes. That's where we haven't seen each other, but we do talk every day. I'll be like, oh my gosh, I've got like 20 TikToks to catch up on.
I know, honestly, I don't know why you don't just, if you would just organize your day such that you open your TikTok app once, I'm not even asking for a lot, like just once an hour, Erin, once an hour, catch up on the 7 from that hour, and then you'll only have, 24 the next time you open it in 3 hours.
Yeah, that's a good idea. That sounds like a very
helpful
good
tips
idea.
with Carla. Time management is what I'm here for.
The problem is I would get sucked into TikTok and then I'd be screwed.
I don't see the problem with that, but like everybody's different, I guess. Yeah. Everybody's so creative.
Yes, and she deserves. We are totally not even talking about her topic.
Right now, we're talking about Tanara Double Chocolate. She has an actual last name, but on TikTok, she's Tanara Double Chocolate, and she's like one of my favorite TikTokers.
And if you haven't watched her, she will. What's it called when you do? Is it duetting or is it stitching or is it?
Yeah, she duets.
Okay, I'm like, what is that term? She duets with those, videos of people making the worst food in the world. And, of course, it starts with everybody's so creative. And she's incredible and should have like 100 billion endorsements. So, but yeah. But we aren't talking about her. We are talking about Yellowjackets. And it just started pouring rain here. So if you end up hearing pouring rain, or if it sounds like stuff is dropping, it's the rain on my skylight. So...
Oh my God.
It's pouring rain. So I first just want to start. Okay, this is the first time we've ever talked about well, no, that's not true. We've talked about Yellowjackets on the podcast, but this is the first time we've ever really dove into it. And Carla, this was Carla's idea. Carla did message me and said we should do a live stream for Yellowjackets for the new season. So, but before we get into the new season, because have you seen all 4 episodes? Because there's been 4 episodes.
I think I have. I'm pretty sure I'm caught up.
Okay. I can say something that'll give if you have, but I don't. But then I'm worried that.
Okay, well, say it and then I'll tell you.
What was the last thing you saw on the last episode that you saw? Remember, we're spoiling.
Van.
Yes, then you are caught up. Okay.
Yay, go me.
Adult, right?
Yes, yes.
Because I'm like, I didn't want to say it if you haven't seen it. So yeah, up to episode 4. Like I've said, we're spoiling it. There's scrolling out down there. But I first want to know, when you first started watching this show, just season 1, just your general like quick brief thoughts. Because like I said, we're going to be doing a Yellowjackets episode later this year. So regular podcast episode.
Okay, so like my first thoughts
Like, did
my,
you love it? Did you? Your overall? Sorry.
immediately, like from the first frame, I fell in love with it. It's such a spooky show, but like I think a lot of the times when we think spooky, we think supernatural stuff, we think ghosts and things like that. But more often than not, what ends up being actually spooky is humans and the way that they behave towards each other. And I think what's really interesting with this show is that back and forth between, their younger selves, their older selves, which, it's not like a new thing in television, but it's used to really, really good effect here. The casting is superb,
Mm-hmm.
superb. And just also, not only did they have me from the first scene, they also had me from the theme song. It could not be
Yes.
more perfect.
Yes, when this show came out, I was telling everybody this is the best show on television at the time when it came out. And the thing that I love the most about Yellowjackets is the fact that there are so many different kind of female characters. It's not just like you've got like, sometimes you'll have like the bad girl and the good girl, and you don't have, and you don't have like the slut and then the virgin. It's not, it's a mix of very complex female characters, and a lot of them do horrible, awful things, especially season 2. It gets even worse.
Yeah.
And
You
so
think maybe in season 2, like, they'll be more chill now. Like, okay, we've
March
gotten some murder out of our system, like maybe we go and like plant tomatoes or something.
in the frozen ground.
Oh, what do I know about gardening, Erin?
I don't know anything. I can't
What
keep
do I know
any
about
plants alive.
cold places?
That's
I
true.
live in
You don't
Florida,
know.
please.
It's true. You're like, you can plant those tomatoes anytime you want to.
Ew, what, there's freeze? Like how long does it last? Like for you guys? Like, oh, like 4 hours? You think in 4 hours it'll be better? Because that sounds reasonable to me.
We can get our latest freeze here in Colorado. As I was watching the news this morning, they were saying, when do we usually get our last snow? And this means nothing. Usually it's the end of April. It means nothing. We can still get in May. And when do we get our last freeze? End of May, usually. So
God.
our last like day of having freeze. But here it warms up really quickly. But we're not talking about the weather anymore.
But it's pertinent because of Yellowjacket stuff. And there's cold and there's snow and looks really scary and creepy and looks very cold. And they have
Very
jackets, but
cold.
it doesn't seem like they have jackets that are enough.
No, it is so cold. Every time I watch this, I'm like, it is. This makes me so cold. But yes, like I mean, I just loved how complex all the characters were, and there's very few male characters, and to have so many female characters in a show is sadly a rarity, especially when there are certain storylines that involve men, but so much of what this is about really isn't about men, and for that to happen is even more rare. This stuff always makes me so sad when I say that. So now we're in season 2, and season 1 we had at the end adult Natalie played by. Oh, you know what? Let me go over some of the cast here.
Oh yeah,
Well, if
okay.
you're watching this, I mean, how can
You know that the cast is amazing, but if you're watching it because you don't care about spoilers one way or the other, prepare to have your mind blown away. Erin?
okay. Well, some of the cast here, and these are the adult versions first, and then we'll go to the teen versions. But this is in the order on IMDb, so it'll probably be mixed. So forget that. Uh, Melanie Linsky plays adult Shauna. Tawny Cypress plays adult Thaisa or Ty. Christina Ricci plays adult Misty or Psycho. No. Or play Misty for me.
Wow.
I thought you could say that about Shauna too, frankly. And Juliette Lewis plays adult Natalie. Jasmine Savoy Brown plays teen Ty or Thaisa, but Ty as she goes. Sophie Thatcher plays teen Natalie. Samantha Hanratty plays teen Misty. Courtney Eaton plays teen Lottie. Sophie, I should have looked your last name up. I'm sorry, Sophie. Nelisa plays teen Shauna. Stephen Kruger plays Ben Scott, who is a teacher that gets trapped there with them. That I think he's gonna, I don't know. I have a theory he's gonna be bye-bye soon, but
Yes, same.
Warren Cole plays Jeff, who finds out, that reading book clubs aren't always book clubs.
Oh my god, that was one of the funniest moments in the entire show.
It was. He's so like he's such a doof.
He's such a caricature of a man. If you watched Good Girls and you know the character that Matthew Lillard plays in that show, it's like that, but like subtract even more intellect.
That's true.
Like, wow.
Yeah. Liv Hewson plays teen Van. Kevin Alves plays teen Travis. Alexa, wait, no, sorry. Yes, okay, sorry. Ella Purnell plays teen Jackie. Where is adult Lottie here? Hello. Well, there's a bunch of other people, but it's not getting to adult Lottie here for me. There she is. Simone Kessel plays adult Lottie. Lauren Ambrose, who we've only seen for 2 seconds, plays adult Van. That's new. Both of those two are new this season. They weren't around. We didn't know Lottie was still alive. Didn't know Van was still alive. I was like, Van's dead. I was so shocked.
I thought so too. I was gonna be so mad. I was like, oh, they kill Van.
Yes, and I know I'm missing a bunch of. Oh, and Elijah Wood joined too as playing. He's perfect. He's perfect for Misty. Walter would.
He really is. Oh my god. Oh my god. We have so much to talk about, Erin. We have so much to talk about.
I know. We
this
have
freaking show.
I know. So I want to know. First off, before we dive into thoughts on things, which I prepared us so well. I didn't give us an outline, so apologies. So we're doing this improv. This is the way we did Dexter, so
Yeah, it works for me.
So overall, then we've seen the first 4 episodes. So overall, on a scale of 1 to 10, I'm gonna do this so gross. How many pounds of human meat do you give?
How many filet-o-man?
Yes. I should have said, oh no, what I should have said was how many
Jackie ears?
Oh God. Oh God. Yes. How many pounds of Jackie meat do you give this season so far?
Let's see. Out of 10. Season 2 is okay. What does Siri say?
Siri's trying to help me on my personal development, I guess.
Siri, this is not what this is about. Okay, we've already talked about the weather and we've talked about Tanara double chocolate. But now we're talking about Yellowjackets. Please keep up. I would give this season like 9 Jackie pounds because somehow it has even surpassed season 1, and season 1 was amazing. I don't know how it's doing it, but it is even better this season than last.
Yeah, I can't believe that.
By the way, when I say Jackie pounds, I'm actually saying Jackie ears because I'm sticking with that one.
Yeah, that's better. That's actually
how many
better.
ears?
How many ears? And Jackie, you've got a lot of ears.
It's genetic, okay? Like, don't mock.
When she eats that ear was just the weirdest flipping thing. It's just like of all the body parts to start with, I'm not condoning.
It conveniently fell off. She's starving and she's pregnant, okay? Some things that are
Oh,
not
that's
snacks
yeah.
look like snacks when you're pregnant, okay? I'm gonna blame the hormones on that.
That's true. I know people when they're pregnant, they get weird cravings. I had a friend that that's cravings not that weird, but just craved like the salt, like these big seeds that would be covered in salt, and that's what she craved. But then there are people that like crave glass and sand.
Yeah. Yeah. I
So
mean, like
yeah.
we don't know what kind of nutrients ears have. And if we're gonna judge somebody, I think we maybe judge the person who ate Jackie's face that had makeup on it.
Yeah, 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 Ty.
That was so out there. I'm like, of all of the buffet,
Why would you choose the face?
like
I feel like there's
honestly.
nothing on there. Well, I would give it. I think I'm gonna give it 9 years right now. Yeah, I think right now for me it's on the same level as season one. Um, but I have a feeling it'll surpass it. There have been scenes in here that surpass season one for sure, as far as like in the shock and and just in the character development too. But yeah, so let's talk about a few things here. Let's first talk about the teens and where they are now, because to me it seems like they have kind of gotten into a routine, and they're not happy, but they're almost like I think they've it feels like they've resigned themselves that they're going to live here forever. That's the way it seems to me. Do you feel that way too?
Yeah, I think that they're at a point where they're hopeless. They don't think that they're ever gonna get out. Um, the only grown up among them is he's their soccer coach. He didn't sign up to be their survival leader. He's just this dude who didn't even really want to be there, doing his best. And it's been, you know, so long at this point. It's been months at this point. Nobody has come to get them. They haven't seemed to have even a bit of contact with the outside world. And yeah, I mean, like it makes sense to me that as a matter of adapting, that they would just maybe even not verbally say, "Hey, everybody, looks like we're stuck here forever. Let's make a life out of this." But just, like instead of saying until we're rescued, it's just like, let's not even think about the fact that this is our lives now, but this is what it is.
Yeah, it's not, yeah, that's what I mean. It's not like they're happy about it. It's just like this is what's going to happen, and we're not going to get rescued, and we have to be adults now. It's also like they have to be
Hmm.
adults. And it's interesting to me to do that with characters that are basically Gen X, and Gen X always felt like for the forgotten generation, and so many people in Gen X were like latchkey children and already were kind of raising themselves.
Hmm.
So I think it makes sense that they even have this story. I mean, they have to because they're going back and forth, but that they have this story set with Gen X, because it's almost like Gen X was set up to have this happen to them.
Yeah.
I mean, really, it's like this was kind of like preordained. This is your destiny to get lost on somewhere. We don't even know where they are really.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I'm wondering when they're gonna because it's already been renewed for season 3. So I'm wondering when they are gonna show them getting rescued. My guess is they're probably gonna wait till next season, because,
Hmm.
or maybe they'll do it at the end of this season. I don't know. Um, but yeah, the teens, they're so like, yes, this is what we do. Natalie and Travis go out trying to find Javi, who Natalie is like, there's no way he's alive. And then Lottie, with her premonitions or something, is like, oh, yeah, no, it's definitely alive. And Natalie's like, we got to stop this. Fakes that whole thing, puts blood that's not his, it's her blood on there, saying, oh, I found this, he's definitely dead, which was, I understood but at the same time, I was like, that is kind of cruel. And we find Javi is alive. So,
And you know what? Like, I'm of the mind that that was a kindness that she was doing
yeah.
for Travis, because Travis, there's nothing worse than uncertainty when it comes to something like that. Like, he already lost his father on the flight. He had his little brother there. He was taking care of him. He wanted desperately to protect them, and the kid just goes missing. Thanks to Misty.
Yes.
I'm putting this squarely on Misty's shoulders because she is the absolute flipping worst. And so this little boy goes missing because he's significantly younger than the rest of them.
Hmm.
No trace of him. It's cold as hell. I mean, Jackie died of exposure. Like, how can you expect that this little boy on his own is not also going to meet the same fate? And, Lottie's premonitions, however they may play out in the lore of this story, in a realistic setting, I think most people would kind of find it like, listen, you're keeping his hopes up, and it's crushing him. So to me, Natalie faking evidence of Javi's death was, an attempt to free Travis from the constant anguish of not knowing where his brother is, and blaming himself while he's, because like now he's just free to blame himself, but it's a burden less in his heart, and it's like, yay, they found him. That's great. So at least, like, yeah, you don't have to feel guilty anymore. He's alive. He's clearly traumatized, but he's alive.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, I think to me, Natalie, of all the characters in this show, is the most sympathetic. Natalie is the one I actually like the most, both adult and teen version. I do like Van a lot, I will say. And there are things I like about the other characters, but Natalie to me, she made not always make the right choices and but she always comes from a place of good and never from a place of bad. And she isn't as selfish as a lot of the other characters are. And yeah, I think the other reason she does it is not only to give Travis that closure, but also because I think she's afraid that she will lose Travis too, and that Travis is so wrapped up in that, which is understandable because Travis lost his father and now his brother is gone, doesn't know where his brother is. So it's understandable that he would be wrapped up in that. It makes complete sense. But I think she loves Travis. I think she's falling in love with Travis. And so she's like, I can't lose you. I don't have a lot here. I don't think she feels that connected to a lot of the other girls, and so I think that's another reason she does it, is maybe this will bring him back and I won't have to worry that I'll lose him somehow. And yeah, and the look on her face when they do find Javi and he is alive, and you see this look on her face of like, oh my gosh, what if he finds out that I lied to him and then I'll lose him anyway? And and I would understand, because I do understand totally her doing it, but I would understand Travis getting a little upset about that. It would be understandable. But from it, the way it seems adult later is that, I don't know, but this could be what kind of is like their rift, because it felt to me, you don't know, that in the adult years they must have had some kind of rift. And the fact that Lottie tells her that Travis didn't want to talk to her in the adult timeline, the present day timeline. So I'm wondering if this is what starts the rift. We'll find out. But that look kind of broke my heart, because it's great that Javi is alive. He looks terrified. Of course he's going to be terrified. The last time he was around a lot of these girls, they were they had been drugged. by Misty, and Misty is at fault for them still being here. Misty destroyed the
Yes.
damn radio, which I'm wondering if that's ever going to come up, because she's the whole reason.
She is the absolute worst. Like, oh my god, you want to talk about a selfish character? And she doesn't
Oh,
really. There's like no stuff like, oh, I don't think she's grown out of it. She is not grown out of it. If anything, she's gotten worse
well, yeah,
because now she's like actively murdery and so manipulative and so scheming. It's so scary. And eh, on the one hand, I'm like, okay, well, with the introduction of Elijah Woods' character, maybe she'll have somebody that she can focus her energy on and maybe leave everybody else the hell alone. But I'm like, well, now it's two of them.
I know. Like, they're exactly the same.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and the thing too is that like they're so similar, but I think that he is a bit more reserved than her.
Mhm.
Like but only a little bit because he still goes through with all of these like unbelievably just what the hell is this plans that she has, and I like, bro, like stalking is one thing, mister,
Yeah. When he
but the
just rings
rest,
that woman and says it's his mom, and
I know. Like, oh no, this is
to
a
the
neighbor.
retirement home. Like, oh my gosh. I'm like, that's something Misty would do. So it does.
Yes.
It does. But, and I thought it was so funny when they're driving in the car, because Misty's, quote unquote, worried about Natalie. What it is she wants to so belong to this group that
Yeah.
doesn't want her. And she's so worried about Natalie, which, I mean, Natalie was kidnapped. So, uh, but they're
Like, okay, she
driving.
was right about that one.
Yes, they're driving in the car, and when they open up, first of all, the tapes cracked me up, and the tape holder cracked me up, because I think I had a tape holder very similar to that. And when she opens it and she's like, "Oh, you're a Yellowjackets fan. Well, I'm honored to be your favorite Yellowjacket." And I just am like, "Oh my gosh."
Like, she is, for somebody who is so paranoid, she is falling way too easily for this guy. Like, way too easily. So all it takes is a little bit of attention and flattery, and suddenly she's like, okay, cool.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, but you see that in the teen version, when her
Hmm.
and what's the name of the teenager that's really into musicals, and they bond. It's the first
Oh, I
person
can't
she was
remember
a
her
friend
name,
with.
but yeah.
Yeah, and you see that, like, the instant she makes a connection to somebody, and they actually show her some kind of respect or something, like when she does the whole monologue from oh my god, how could I forget this?
From Steel
I'm
Magnolias.
like, I did this monologue. I did a
Did you
monologue.
really?
Well, not this exact one. I did the one where when Julia Roberts' character goes to Sally Field's character, and I've played both of those characters.
Mm.
So, like, I know all of those lines like by heart. That's why I'm like, I can't believe I can't remember the name of the movie. Because when she was doing that, I'm like reciting it with her. I'm mouthing the words like, stop it, Aaron. And when Julia Roberts goes to Sally Field, and tells her she's pregnant, and they have that whole scene, and the Sally Fields' character is very upset. So that was a scene that I did for, like, I actually played both parts, so I'd alternate, but yeah. So anyway, but when she does that, and then she has someone who's cheering her on, that's what happens to her. She just finds someone who, anyone that pays her any kind of attention, and she latches onto them. And the fact that she, sabotaged the radio just so she could have a chance at having friends
Yeah,
is
because she did
whoa.
she did something right,
Mhm.
and suddenly she's like, this is paradise. Let's stay here forever, and just completely ruins their lives in the process. Like, it's traumatic enough to have gone through what they did just with the crash and with losing like so many other team members and like so
Mhm.
many people. But if they had been rescued at that point, maybe it wouldn't have been as traumatic as it becomes. It certainly wouldn't have.
Yeah, they
Because, oh
probably
my
wouldn't have
God, did it
eaten the
get
person.
worse? Well, that, like, Jackie might still be alive. Or at the very least, she would have like her makeup on her face. I don't know. It is just so out there. It's so out there.
It is, yeah, and but you know what? I don't think they do know that she did that in the present day because even though they don't like Misty and they don't want to have anything to do with her, they're not reacting to her like this is all your fault.
Right.
So I have a feeling they don't know, and I wonder if they're ever going to find that out because I don't know. I'd like to see their reaction to that. Um, but it could be something that never gets found out, something that just
Right.
stays a mystery, which I wouldn't be upset about. I just would be interested to see their reaction to that. But I do Misty just I do think both of the actors are doing a fantastic job. It's amazing how similar they look on the screen, but when you look at the actresses off of the screen, and of course it's the makeup I know and the hair, they don't necessarily look completely alike, but it's really they're doing a
It's
fantastic
done
job, both of them.
so well because the makeup, the hair, yes, but
Mhm.
like the mannerisms and the speech patterns and the eyes, like the way that they're like just they're equally creepy. They're like
Yeah.
that is of all of the characters that we have seen up to this point in both parts, these are the two that are the most I don't know, like you could actually forget that they're not actually not the same person.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, and I mean, even with the glasses, where they both do this thing with the glasses, I mean, even little things like that. And I mean, all the performances are great here, especially when you've got teen versions and then the adult versions. I think that's probably really hard because for both actors, because you want to make sure you're both keeping the same mannerisms, especially the adults. They've got to make sure they're doing the same stuff the teens would. So yeah, but I saw a TikTok recently, and the TikTok actually said Shauna is the creepiest, scariest character in this. Shauna played in the adult version by Melanie Linsky, and then the teen version, Sophie. I know I'm misread. Nellis, who looks, oh my gosh, if you see her picture on IMDb, it's like not even doesn't even look even close to her on screen. That's probably because she's got blonde hair. So what do you think of that?
I can totally see that because the thing is, um, Misty's actions and her creepiness is very overt. It's like what you would see in a psychological thriller. You know,
Mhm,
she's very like misery, you know, that kind of character. So she's a very in your face kind of creepy, but Shauna, because she has this veneer of, you know, likable, laid back, suburban mom who is just like, "Honey, why don't you just da 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 da?" And, Melanie Linsky's voice is also just like this beautiful little airy thing
mhm.
where, you know, it's just like, "Oh, it's so sweet. It's what a cute, sweet voice," and her little face, and she's always had, like, this air of innocence. The entire time that I've seen her on screen, she's always seemed like just like such a, you know, like such a nice lady, you know, like whatever, whether you've seen her on Two and a Half Men or in Ever After with Drew Barrymore, anything that you've ever seen her in, she just looks like a sweet person. But this is the role where she's like really diving in with fangs and claws. And it's amazing because those fangs and claws are hidden until they need to come out. And in this season, she's exploring that dark side more overtly, um, with, first of all, the way that she lies is so incredibly scary because you could not guess that this is somebody who is that kind of liar, who's,
Mhm.
you know, covering things up, who is like such a mastermind when they're at Adam's studio with his like obsessive drawings of her all over the place. And she's like captivated. She's like, "Oh, I guess we're gonna have to burn it down." Logical, logical choice. Not like, you know, let's pack these up and burn these elsewhere. Like, hey, let's just burn the apartment. Sounds good to me. You know, and the most recent thing with the minivan, oh,
Oh,
because
that scene. Holy
that was
moly.
amazing. First of all, she rightfully calls Jeff out because they don't hit this guy. Okay, the guy just comes out and he's like one of those opportunists that's like, "Oh, you hit me, I'm gonna steal your van, bye." And he points a gun at them, and Jeff is like, "Honey, let's walk away." And she gets mad. She's like, I'm having a hard day. My daughter's an absolute jerk, and I hate her so much, but I have to pretend that I don't. And give me your gun because this is not okay." And Jeff's like, "No, no." And he ruins the whole thing where, this dude steals their minivan. Okay. What does Jeff do? Go grumble about it. What does she do? Hunts the guy down, hunts down where the minivan is, and almost kills somebody to get her really crappy little minivan. And like, I know that it had a precious memento from when her awful daughter was not probably awful, but I don't think it's worth going through all of that. But then again, I'm not Shauna, so it was a very revealing moment to see her like that, where she's like embracing this darker side of herself, that she has suppressed for this long, because we've seen her cruelty in sleeping with her best friend's boyfriend, and then in insulting her friend to the point where the friend stalks out and gets frozen to death. Her just whatever her mind frame is at that point, where she is keeping her dead frozen friend dressed and hanging out with her in like a little cottage thing so that she can explore further in her mind how messed up she is by talking to her dead friend,
Mm-hmm.
and then kind of leading the weenie roast. You
Yeah.
know, there's a lot going on with Shauna that we're not.
Weenie roast. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
I'm like,
That part.
how do you? And you know what? Like when it was happening, I was like,
When they
I
all woke up and were like, "What is that smell?"
I
I'm like, "Oh my
know.
god."
Like, it's like you didn't just walk into like IHOP and you're smelling, pancakes and bacon. Like, this is a human being. And Ben was the only one who had a normal reaction of noping out.
And now he's terrified. He's like, and I think he has a reason to be terrified, frankly. But
Yes. Yes, because oh my gosh, like Misty, the way that that she treated him, where I mean, because the whole thing where she ended up poisoning everybody is because she was trying to have sexy times with her coach, who was not only not into her in general, but is also gay and significantly older and in a position of authority that she didn't care about, because she's like, oh, he thinks I'm smart and clever. I guess he'll marry me.
obviously,
Obviously, that's what comes next. First comes plane crash, then comes, Florence Nightingale, then comes baby in the baby carriage. Everybody knows that childhood song.
yeah, yeah. And I want to say with the Ben character, one thing I am so grateful is that they didn't have them get trapped with a teacher, because I think actually in other writers' hands, they would have had this teacher be really creepy and trying to get with some of the teenagers. And I'm so glad they didn't do that. And I'm really, I mean, I really don't think he's going to survive, but I'm very glad. I'm very glad they didn't do that, because that would have just been ew, and you wouldn't wanna watch that for season after
No.
season, watching a predator teacher. So I'm very grateful they didn't do that, but yeah, and, Melanie Lynskey, though, she's got her big break playing a character very kind of similar to this in a way. except for kind of more like Misty, kind of in the movie Heavenly Creatures with Kate
Mm.
Winslet. And she plays a real life girl who her with and along with Kate Winslet, they like murder their parents. This is like a real story to try to be
Whoa.
together because their parents didn't want them to be stay friends or something like that. I can't remember. I haven't seen it in years, but that's a young Melanie Linsky. Like she was like a teenager, I think, when they made that or something. So, and that's one of the only things I've ever watched where you hear her actual accent because this is an Australian story. So you actually hear that.
Ah.
So, but yeah, Shauna, with the fact that very early on in the first season, one of the first scenes you see with adult Shauna is her with that rabbit and the
Mhm.
way she kills that rabbit and the absolute joy that she is getting from killing that rabbit. And it's not because she needs food, it's because she gets joy out of it is really creepy.
Mhm.
And but going all the way back to even before they crashed, when she is sleeping with her best friend's boyfriend and the way that's handled and the way she is in those scenes is just pure, like she has this hatred of Jackie. She has this
Yeah.
deep hatred. And I think when Jackie dies, and a lot of the reason she's like doing all those fantasy conversations with her is she feels like this, I think, guilt in some way, deep down about, well, I kind of wanted her to go and I didn't want her around. And so now that she's not around, maybe I need to try and make amends with her.
Mhm.
And then I think even eating her in a lot of respects, devouring her is almost like the most it's so weird to talk about it like this, but the most like a cleansing way to get rid of to
Yeah.
get rid of like your enemy in a way.
Yeah. And I see what you're saying. To me, though, it's more like she coveted what Jackie had.
Yeah. Mhm.
Jackie was, effortlessly beautiful and likable and popular, and she had Jeff. That's another thing. Jackie had money.
Mhm.
So there were a lot of things that Shauna wanted that even though they're somehow best friends, she was really, really envious of Jackie. And in a way, to me, the um, consuming her, starting with the ear thing, yeah, like I said, the pregnancy cravings are weird, but there's also an element of wanting to take her inside herself so that she can become her in a way. It's part guilt, part I want to be close to my best friend, part absolute jealousy. And there's just like so much tied up in that.
Mhm.
But yeah, there is that really sick, twisted thing about I want this magic that you had.
Yeah, it's like she wants to devour her and devour every part of her, and it is, I mean, it's a very that scene when they all start eating Jackie, whoo, that is like that was even more, I did not, because I knew everyone knew cannibalism was gonna happen in this. I mean, everyone has been waiting for this to happen. There were moments when you thought it would happen with other characters and it didn't happen. There were moments when you thought, well, they're just gonna kill somebody and then eat them. And so you weren't sure how it was gonna happen, and we're not sure. I mean, that I still think that's where it's gonna lead, is they're gonna kill people. But you thought that's what was gonna happen, and so then when Jackie dies from exposure and not from being murdered, and then the next thing, in season 2, you're just seeing that they've kept her body frozen, you're like, "Well, they could still end up eating her," but you're not really even thinking that necessarily, and then when they're burning her body and then when the snow falls on it and puts out the fire, it it's like it's so weird that they have this supernatural almost element to it that's almost like, "You're gonna eat this person." And then them smelling it, and then that absolute frenzy, and, and then when Ty the next day doesn't remember because Ty has a lot of, like, sleeping and not sleepwalking necessarily, but it is kinda sleepwalking where she goes and does stuff she's not aware of, and it carries over into her adult life too. And she's throws up when she realizes what happened, and but all of them just eating Jackie, and then even though they have kind of these moments of like, that was kind of weird, they all seem kind of okay with it. It's so weird to me. That's the weirdest.
Yeah. But I think that comes from just not wanting to feel weirded out by it, like, not wanting
Yeah.
to feel guilty about it. It's like, well, we all did it,
Yeah.
like, I can't possibly be wrong here. It can't possibly be that immoral because there are just so many justifications that they can make in their mind. We're starving. We were trying to do the right thing by burying her body, and then we were going to bury her. We were going to do all of these right things, but you know now we're not so hungry, and now like the Lord hath provided. Like whatever. Um, but the main thing is like we all did it.
Yeah.
Like and therefore we can't all be bad people. We can't all be wrong. Um, or we were just caught up in the moment. Like so many things that happen um in like mob scenes where there are attacks
Mhm.
and like a lot of people get into them, and then afterwards they're just like, I just got caught up in the moment, just I was this is not who I really am. All of these things are very removed from that situation. It sounds illogical and it sounds wrong. It sounds like you should know better. But I think when you're in that situation, especially when you're hungry, you're always cold, you're traumatized, it's just so much easier. Or rather, it just makes so much more sense when you're in it and you don't really understand when you're not part of what's going on there. So yeah, to us, ew, I would never do that. Realistically, though, would you never if you were in the same situation?
Because and they also don't know when they're going to be able to eat again. I mean, they do have
Yeah.
like a bear meat, but they still don't know. They don't know if they're going to survive, or I mean, there are real life cases where
Mhm.
people have had to do this. So it's not like it's completely out of the realm. I think what's interesting about this show though is that there's also this kind of horrific element to it of people becoming not they are still themselves, but people going to different dark sides. And I think what it's also showing is that I think most people are capable of doing this kind of stuff. You just don't know it. It's just they're put in that situation and they are. But, I think when they're the adult versions of them, it's just so interesting to see how their trauma from that situation carried over and infected everything about them. And,
Yes.
I mean, it's like with Shauna, with the scene when she's getting the minivan back, and what this creepiest part about that is when she's standing there with the guy and he's like, "Well, you're shaking. You're not gonna do it." And
Mhm.
she's basically shaking because she's trying to stop herself from killing him. And then when she describes peeling the skin back from a human, that holy moly, that was one of the creepiest things I've ever seen. And you don't see anything, you just hear her describe it. And that guy was so scared.
Yes.
I mean, who wouldn't
'Cause
be
it's like,
scared?
yeah, I mean, like, he's like, "This is too specific to not be real." Like, she's not stalling, she's not buying time, she's not trying to scare me. This lady has done some stuff. Maybe I
Yeah.
should be careful. You know what? What's one van? It's okay, ma'am. Go ahead and take it. Would you like any other crappy minivans while you're here? Help yourself to anything on the lot. Would you like an
Yeah.
upgrade?
Would you like an upgrade? Free upgrade. Yeah. Well, I wanna talk because I know, I mean, we have, like we've been here for 49 minutes, but there are a couple of other characters I wanna talk about. I definitely wanna talk about Ty because we didn't know this stuff about Ty really that that she did this, that she would be basically like sleepwalking, but she'd be like doing all these really weird things because the way the first season ended, when she wins her election, and then you see, this is adult Ty, of course, and you see that there's like that altar with the dog's head, and her
Yeah.
wife finds it and is like, oh, I do not, I mean, I have to say, I was really grateful to have a character be like, fuck you, goodbye.
Right. It's true though, because like how many other TV shows are like, honey, we can get through this together.
I
If
know.
we will just take these pills, I'm sure and then her head ends up on a stick. So I'm very proud of the ex for being like, nope, and taking the child and being like, we're out of here.
Yeah, especially the child part and getting the
Yeah.
child away and being like, no, you are definitely not coming near our child. When I found a dog's head.
Our dog's head. Like,
Yes. I mean, yeah, and when she finds it, when Ty finds it, and the look on Ty's face of like, "Oh, fuck, what did I do?" Because you realize when you're going back in time that she keeps having all those moments, and she's hurting Van
mm-hmm.
and all of that. So what are your thoughts on Ty? And once again, amazing, amazing performances. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. They're
Yeah,
just both.
it's oh my gosh, so incredible because that is that has to be like a really scary thing to have in yourself and to know that at any given moment you could hurt somebody without knowing it and people wouldn't believe you that you didn't know you were doing it because you just look so wide awake. um the thing with the dog, I was just like, and also that she, painted graffiti on her own
Oh, yeah.
home, like all of that stuff. And, you know, among the worst things that she did is that she scared her own child because this little boy, he's telling her that, well, the person is you. The person who is doing these things is you. You're coming to my window at night. You're talking to me from the tree. And, like how for all the trauma that she's been through, she's also traumatizing her child
Mhm.
by having him go through that. And once she realizes that she is doing this, at this point, she doesn't seek help. She doesn't do something reasonable like stop being in a stressful situation where you're trying to be elected, stop um, pushing your spouse away, stop traumatizing your child. She just pushes forward and things get worse and she loses her family, but then she's still trying to have her child in her life, which I understand the impulse because it's her baby. I get that,
Mhm.
like you want to be around your children, absolutely, I understand, but that's a point at which his safety comes first and she is not at all understanding that, like she is not putting that as a priority in her own mind. So like that disturbing moment when she hallucinates him being in the house and calls her ex and has her ex come and suddenly the boy is missing, like wait, now we have to go look for him, and the school calls and it's like this, he's been here this whole time. You got, which by the way, that administrator was really crappy. Like we're not a
I know.
babysitting service. Instead of being like, ma'am, are you
Is
all right?
everything okay?
Right, like for like when the child ends up like going to aftercare after school and they're not signed up for aftercare, don't you call the parents and be like, hi, we're concerned, are you okay? Are you going to come and get your child who has been here for 15 minutes longer than they should have? Because like that's the maximum that you should go,
Yeah.
possibly. When okay, so like that school administrator just sucks. Like I'm gonna go to the school board of that town and be like, that is not okay. But
You show up
administrative
to the
issues.
town, that's not really, you're like, "You know what?" They're like, "What are you talking about? That was on a show."
Well,
Sorry.
I'm gonna show you why that was not the way to handle things. Um, but oh my god. So all that happens, and of course, the worst thing, which is not just that there was an accident and her wife is now hospitalized and who knows what's going to happen to the wife, is that I am terrified that she's going to end up with custody of Sammy.
Oh, yeah.
Because if she does, she is going to just leave a really awful mark in his soul. And it's going to be really hard for him to um, move past this in any way. And I'm wondering if like the mom who's like, we're not doing this, has putting him into counseling. That's not okay. Whatever. I'm not here to speculate about the child's like psychological
Well, it's
welfare.
generational
That's
trauma. It's almost
yeah,
like generational trauma starting, Yeah.
compounded. Like, good lord. But anyway, okay. Enough with my like pediatric psychology stuff. And then going back to when she was a teen, and she's already starting traumatizing her loved ones by traumatizing Van, which is as awful as it is. I also really don't like that Van is putting herself in that position by being like, "Oh yeah, I have these new bruises because you punched me, but it's okay because you didn't know what you were doing." Like, Van, listen, I get that you love her, and I get that you know that she's not doing these things consciously or on purpose. That's not okay. It's not a green light for you to put yourself in harm's way. So like that part like just breaks my heart for Van, because like Van is so awesome. Like I love that character.
I do too.
And yeah, and I loved the two of them together before this started popping up.
Mhm.
Um but it's so it's such an awful situation because Thaisa herself is not a bad person. She's just an irresponsible one. Like she's like awfully irresponsible with her loved ones, and I just don't know why. Well, I get why she puts all of these ambitions ahead of the safety of her loved ones time and time again, from the time that she was a teen, and has not stopped, despite the fact that she has a child.
Mhm.
I'm like, oh my god. But yeah, the acting by everybody involved is so good. Like you just really you really feel for them, and like as much as I hate the things that Thaisa does, I really still like her, and I want her to get well. I want her to get the help that she needs. I would love for her to just step down from her position and to take time away, and do what she needs to do um to get better. But like it doesn't seem that she wants to, and that it just
Mhm.
drives me up the wall. Like, poor
I know
Sammy.
she needs like it seems like it looks like from her house and everything that she has money, and
Hmm.
I would love if she would just go and get intensive therapy. That's what she
Yes.
needs. And on top of it all, to have like this happen, this discovery of that you hurt people, and especially people that you love and care about, and not realize it. And then on top of that, you're just starting to come to terms with your sexuality while you're in this traumatic situation anyway. And then on top of that, you got this other trauma of that you're hurting the person that you are having your first experience with, your first sexual experience, your first the first time that you have been real and open about who you really are. And so to be hurting that person has to also take a real big toll on you emotionally. And that's why I'll be very curious to see about their interactions together as adults, the adult Van and adult Ty, because you don't know what happened with their relationship, because I really thought Van must have died. And in the first season, I have to say, when Van does get attacked and you think she's gonna die, I really thought she was gonna die. I was like, "Oh, are they gonna do the bury your gaze trope here where she's happy and then she
Me
loses?" I
too.
was like,
That
"They didn't do that."
I was like ready to rage quit because Van comes back and I was like, oh, thank God I don't have to quit this show. I love it so much.
I know, I really thought that's what they were gonna do, and they actually didn't do that, which is mind-blowing.
Isn't it sad that it's like a mind blowing thing
It
that
is
it's like,
very
oh
sad.
my God, what a revolutionary thought. Let's keep them around. Whoa. But then in the season, like after a certain point, I started thinking to myself, I'm like, wait, I haven't been tracking this, but I need to think back to whether Van has been interacting with anybody other than Thaisa, because is she a figment of Thaisa's imagination? You know, like, is she
Oh,
imagining her this whole time? Because the scene, um,
whoa. I didn't even think that because I
because what I was thinking is the scene where they're having the baby shower, the very weird baby shower.
oh my gosh, that
Like,
baby
whoa.
shower.
So they're having the very weird baby shower, and Van gets very excited and tells Ty to tell them something or about, I forget what it is, probably her sleepwalking or the trees that she's found with those weird drawings. Um, and I'm like, she exclaimed it really loudly, but nobody turned around to look at her. That is weird. And then, she shows up as a grown up later, and I'm like, oh, okay, so she must be real. But then I start thinking, wait, must she be real? She must be real, Carla. Are you sure? She must be. Why must she be real?
Man, when I go
Because she
back,
shows up as a grown up. Could Ty not have imagined her as a grown up?
well, she was talking to somebody right before. Like you see her in her store talking to somebody, but I guess that could be a hallucination too. I don't know. I don't know.
I mean, like, I'm really hoping that I'm completely wrong and that I'm just so into my whole idea of like, whoa, this is spooky. Let's run with that. But like, for a good part, for a good part of this season, I was like, wait a second. Wait a second. Who else has Van been talking to?
Oh
Has she
man.
interacted with anybody else? So now I feel like I have to go back to the point of the season one when she comes back and see who else. Because I have to be wrong. I have to be wrong. But what if I'm not, Aaron? What if I'm not?
See, well, but they all kind of when she hurt her when she was injured, they were all rallying around her, unless she died and now she's just
Because
hallucinating
they
her.
thought that she was dead.
But I mean, like if Ty is hallucinating her, maybe she actually did die, and everybody
Right.
knows she's dead. And well, now when I go back to rewatch for when we record the episode later this year, when I go back to rewatch season one, I'm gonna have to really pay attention to that because wow, I hope you're wrong, but
But Aaron, what if I'm not?
I'm gonna have to Google and see if there's like a theory about that. Hmm.
How many times, Aaron, in the time that we've known each other, have I floated a very bizarre but really cool idea that ends up completely never happening? Like,
That's
that
true.
was like half of me with the whole Dexter thing. I was like, well,
That's
what if this is what's actually going on? And frankly, it's more interesting than what they wrote. So maybe they should just hire me.
well, that's why the dream makers exist.
Dream makers. Yeah.
I've missed that because I talk about the dream makers still in our episodes. And I'm like, I'm like, someday I'm just going to record that, and then I'll just when I'm editing, I'll just insert it in there whenever we talk about.
Just drop it in. Dream makers.
We still need to record a 6 Degrees of Finn song. We still haven't done
I
that.
know.
We
Like,
don't even need the
seriously.
music. We can just
Somebody I just need somebody to come up with a tune. I can work with a tune.
yeah. Yeah, so please reach out to us. I know that has nothing to do with what we're talking about, but if you want to come up with a tune for 6 Degrees of Finn Whitrock, we're still looking for that. Um, yeah, but I know it's getting kind of late. But I do want to talk about Lottie because adult Lottie is like leading a cult type thing, and teen Lottie and all her
Yeah.
stuff. So, what are your
Yeah.
thoughts on Lottie and all her stuff?
All her stuff. She has a lot of stuff. And I mean, like, part of the stuff that she has is that she has a mental illness. And
Mhm.
from the get go, we see that, you know, early on, she starts running out of the pills that she was secretly taking because, you know, as much as things have improved about the stigma around mental illness, they have not improved that much. And they certainly were not nearly, as as openly spoken about in the 90s, so as they are today. So yeah, it absolutely, it's a lot of a burden that Lottie was carrying in the first place, and she's dealing with so much on her own. Um, so these visions that she had, and that she's having again, um, it's really scary, largely because this is where we start to kind of blur the line in this show with supernatural elements, where we have like this guy that she, like the guy who belonged to the house
Mhm.
that they gently scooped up and put on a little like weird, like they made him a little altar, but the altar is him, so it's just very odd. It's a
Yes.
lot, like I said. So and she goes to him, and then there's like this person that she has visions of, um like, how much blood will it take, and Travis also having supposed, this is supposed visions as well, because we don't know what actually happened to Travis. We know what Lottie says happened to Travis, which is that he came to her and she tried to help him, and that he accidentally died while she was having a hallucination, but that he also called up this hallucination as if he also believed in it. How much stock we put into what Lottie says, I don't know.
Mhm.
But that's where we start, like with those frayed threads of reality versus supernatural element. And in a way, I hope that they don't go, or that there isn't like a plan to go into like a supernatural thing with the show, because I like it as it is, with just like really screwed up people doing their best, you know. So but she's always been going through so much, but she's also, I think, a good person at heart. I think, especially as a teen, I don't know now, like we don't know what her motives are now, because anybody who's like a charismatic leader, I'm like, I don't know that I can trust you,
Yeah.
but I trust Teen Lottie. Teen Lottie had she wants to keep everybody calm. She wants everybody to be centered and um, to be hopeful and be positive, and not in a toxic way, but just like, okay, the world sucks right now. Yes, it does. But I think that if we don't just all keep our heads together, we'll be fine. But that hallucination that she had, when she was about to like also succumb to the cold, where she goes down the plane hatch into a mall,
Yeah.
and she goes to that table, and what's her name, like something Lee, like Amy Lee or
Yeah, the one that
Susie
died in the
Lee.
plane, when
Yes.
they took the little plane, not the plane big
Yes. Not the
plane.
big plane, but the little plane.
Mhm.
Yeah. Which, by the way, was so brave of her. So
Oh
brave of her
my
to
gosh,
try
yeah.
to get help that way. Um, but she's there and she has food ready for Lottie, and everybody's there and everybody looks happy, healthy, you know, nobody's scarred inwardly or outwardly. And it's almost like a welcome banquet to heaven kind of thing. So okay, that's like a total sidebar thing. It's just like a great scene. It was such a good scene. But
Van's
um
in that scene. Van's in that scene.
yes.
Although that
Yes.
doesn't mean anything, never mind, because she's seeing another character that's dead, so never mind. Sorry. Sorry, sorry. Just
But see, what if that's a red herring? What if she's just there to be like, oh, well, Lottie also sees her, but Lottie's just seeing things. She's not actually in the mall. She's not actually. She didn't actually
I
stop by
know,
an Old
so
Navy.
never mind. Never mind.
By the way, I love that the first store that she stops at is an Old Navy. I'm like, okay, sure. Um, but it's a great scene. But just in general, I'm really fascinated by her. I'm fascinated by what her motives are now, though.
Yeah. And the scene when, because they like sell honey at the farmer's market, and that scene when when she sees the bees dead, although you don't know that it's her hallucinating, or and it takes out the thing with the honey, I don't know what those are called, and there's
Yeah.
blood on it and all that blood dripping and her fear. And then in the next episode she wants to go to her doctor, her psychiatrist, I'm assuming, because she says he can prescribe drugs, so I'm assuming it's a
Mhm.
psychiatrist, and has that other doctor there. So it's interesting that she's still every 6 months, although that makes sense. If you're taking um, psychiatric drugs, you usually have to meet with that doctor that prescribes them at least once a year. Sometimes it's more than that,
Mhm.
especially if you're taking. Anyway, we won't get into a medication discussion. Sorry.
What, go off on tangents, us?
I know. You had blood work and all that. Anyway.
We'll take you through all of the panels that she did.
Yeah. Um, but I think, the drug she was taking, they didn't say the name exactly correctly, but they might have been doing that for just reasons. But it's very similar to a drug that schizophrenics take. And so to me, she's very much a schizophrenic. Like I've
Mhm.
known schizophrenics, and this is very much a schizophrenic. And she probably has maybe some paranoid schizophrenia too. And, when you talk to people who are schizophrenic, and when they tell you about the stuff they see and what happens to them, it's absolutely terrifying because it's so completely real. And when you're in that moment, and if you've got trauma on top of that, and then you're thinking, well, this is how I'm getting out of the trauma, i- i- it's just got to be just, I can't even imagine that. I mean, my heart goes out to people that have that, because um, I've known really great people who have that, and it's just this trauma that, because of that part, when they're not on medication, but even on medication, sometimes people can still have those hallucinations. And so with her now leading a cult of people, what I think, my guess is, because you see little bits where, like, it looks like she was institutionalized after they got back, and she wasn't talking for the longest time, and then they did all those shock treatments. The scene when you first see, oh, that's one of the that's such a cruel thing. Although I do want to say, there's a new way they do it that actually helps people sometimes. But anyway, we're but that scene is so sad because she's so shut down and she's not talking, and she doesn't even react to the fact that they're getting her ready for shock treatment. So, she must have been something must have happened that got her into an almost catatonic state. And then she gets out of that, but you don't know how that happened yet. And now she's this charismatic leader that all these people that also seem to be, at least from the one woman that you actually have, when she goes and visits her mom with Natalie, and you get the feeling that she might have a mental illness as well. And so it's almost like she's finding all these lost people that were just as lost as her. And because she could help people when they were stranded, now she can help people this way. So it's like her only place of finding power, because she wasn't treated like, oh, that's just quote unquote crazy Lottie. She wasn't treated like that by a lot of people, started having respect for her. So then if she can find that feeling of respect again in the real world, I think that's kind of where she is. But I'm with you. I really would prefer not to have very many supernatural elements in this show, because I think it doesn't need it. Really, it doesn't need it, frankly. It's already weird and enough, and it doesn't need to get that. And I think that's one thing that you run the risk of with any show like this, is the creators feeling the need to push the envelope more and more and more and more, to the
Yeah.
point it's too much. And that's my fear for the show is.
Yeah, I mean, because you have a show like Lost, for example, where they're trying to out-clever themselves, and it's like, you have a great concept. Don't overwork it. Yes, you have to keep bringing in the viewers, you have to keep people satisfied, but making it too complicated can be a really it can get really tricky, and this is where a lot of shows end up tripping over themselves. Like with Supernatural, part of the reason that it didn't need to go 15 seasons is because every season they decided nobody told them that they had to top themselves each season with their villains. They decided among themselves, they're like, oh, well, we fought this. So what can we possibly bring to the table next season? Instead of just looking at the root of their product and thinking, okay, well, what are we actually about? Is this what we're about? Um, and I really, really would hate to see this happen to Yellowjackets, which has a great concept, um, by deciding, well, we've talked about this, fictional person and, this scary man who wants blood. Well, what if we actually make him a supernatural thing? If that's what they're going for, then I'm going to trust that they're going to do it well and hope for the best. But I would not enjoy it being uh, a ghosty, being from another dimension or something like that. Oh my god, if this is like another dimension, can you
Mention that.
imagine? Oh my god,
Gosh.
because like this is have you watched Manifest?
No, I haven't,
Okay.
but I've heard about it.
Okay. Manifest starts off great, very interesting, very fascinating, and then it becomes like this whole thing about um like a very barely hidden god allegory thing, and it just gets really annoying. So I just would hate for that to happen to Yellow Jackets, but I'm hoping and I'm trusting that these writers are better than those writers. Um
Hopefully. Yeah.
yeah, hopefully.
Hopefully. Yeah. Because, I'm also excited because how in the world am I forgetting his name? Melanie Linsky's husband. Jason Ritter. He's gonna be
Oh.
on next season. And so I'm hoping the writing is still at the because I will be very to see him on here. So yeah. But we shall see. And yes, I agree. I don't want it to go too far out there because a lot of these shows do that. And
Mhm.
it's the to me, I kind of think of it as like it's the David Lynch of it all. That's why I have such an issue with David Lynch stuff because I used to love Twin Peaks. Twin Peaks when I was younger, that was like appointment viewing. I would get so upset if I missed it because this was back before the days of streaming. It was like you missed it, you kind of missed it. And then that show just was like, "Okay, we're just going to keep getting weirder and weirder and weirder just for the sake
Yeah.
of being weird, not for any point." And I just really hope it doesn't do that. But it's really interesting to me. We're talking about this. There are so many shows, and I know Lost was I never really watched Lost, but I know Lost did this too. But there seem to be so many shows lately about this, about like sometimes it's end of the world, like The Last of Us, like end of the world kind of stuff. And then it's like this, where it's like people are trapped somewhere and they can't get out, and there's something else going on and with their characters, or maybe there's something else going on, some other kind of element. I'm wondering, I mean, it's too late to really get into that, but it just kind of hit me. I'm like, I'm wondering if there's some kind of reason why these shows are becoming so popular.
Well,
That's a whole
well, my theory, I know you're like, let's wrap this up, but Carla's not going to let you
I shouldn't have
because
brought that up. I'm like, why am I bringing this up now?
write that down, keep it to yourself. Don't bring it up to me of all people because I'm going to start talking about it, which I am, but just very briefly, which is to say that we are pretty much in the end times. Like it feels very
Yes.
end timesy. So on the one hand, you see a lot of entertainment that is just escapism and sweetness and wonderful things, and then on the other hand you have this other extreme which is very dark, very like unimaginably spooky stuff in a way that you're like, this couldn't possibly happen, could it? Right? Please tell me that it couldn't. Where there's like an element of reality to it, but just heightened to a more absurd and therefore entertaining level. Um, so like you're dealing with so many real human possibilities and emotions and all of these things. So that's my short version of why.
No, yeah, and I think that definitely, I mean, especially, with the pandemic and everything too, and everything going on, stuff that was going on before the pandemic. And it is because it's just so funny because as far as like what I've been watching, like The Last of Us, and then I finished that, and then I watched From, and From has the same kind of feeling of like, and that's totally supernatural. So
Mm,
there's supernatural elements in From, but it's the same thing of like these people trapped in this town, they don't know where they are, they can't get out, and people, if they come in, they have to deal with them freaking out first, and they have to
mm.
deal with these creatures that look very human that rip them to shreds. And so it's like at night, I love that show so much, I think it's so good. But
It
it's
sounds good.
but it's the same, but I watched it right after I finished The Last of Us, and it was just so funny because it's kind of like the same kind of thing. It's like going into another world where people have to deal with, you end up having the same thing of human beings, and even though they're fighting this other element, they're really fighting each other in a lot of respects. And you see that in all of these shows. So I'm sure that's part of it too, is it's that in the end times thing, it makes sense to, because you have the escapist stuff, and then you have stuff like this, like Yellowjackets, where it's like, we're not going to let you escape anything.
Right.
Good luck.
Exactly. So, "Ope, you're trapped here." God, I've been saying "ope" so much. Thanks, Meg.
But we are going to continue this, and hopefully next week we'll have Jen, so we'll have the full Saxy ladies on. I'm hoping I'll come
No,
up
the
with some.
wild women of podcasting.
Oh my god.
Go to bed, Erin.
Sorry, I didn't mean to bang on that.
Thank everybody for watching, whether you're watching now or you're watching in the future when you go to YouTube and visit the link. And don't forget to email us.
Yeah, I'll do, yes, I will. Well, I'll let you say. Oh my gosh. Yes, we are the wild women of podcasting. I have too many names, too many. I'm like, no, seriously, today I was like, I need to make a document with all the different running themes we have in my podcast and different groups because there's so many.
You
So
have your Fin crew, you have the Sexy Ladies, you have the Wild Women of Podcasting. I don't know what other clubs you might have that I'm not part of, but
that's actually, I think that's it for the clubs, but we
oh,
have the
okay.
running things like we have Finn Whitrock, we have Christian Bale, we have Dream Makers, we
Dream makers,
have
yeah.
so, so yes, so before I totally lose it, and I'm so happy I don't have to do jury duty tomorrow. By the way, everybody, I'm sorry, I'm so happy about that. I was like, oh my god, I have to get up early and go drive down there.
Yeah.
Anyway, but none of us had to come. So, but go watch
Yay.
jury duty on, if you want an escapist thing. Go watch jury duty on Freebie. It's free. So, Carla, sorry, Carla, save me. Where can they find your podcast, Bedwater Behead? Because you have some new episodes out.
Yes, thank you. Bedwater Behead can be found wherever you get your podcast. If you find Fandom Thing, you also probably find Bedwater Behead Pod. We opened up with our Pedro Pascal Zadisode, which was great fun. And we have now done 2 Abbott Elementary episodes. We are down to every 2 weeks instead of weekly because Meg and I are both very busy people who cannot plan for crap, and we are doing our best in these trying times. But we are still having great fun, so go check us out. Um, you can find us retweeting stuff at Bedwood Behead Pod. You can find us Instagramming stuff at bed.wet.behead.pod. You can find our 5 TikTok videos now on the TikTok. Look for at Bedwetter Behead Pod. And you can find me and my art and my musings on Instagram at Carla Temis or my website, carlatemis.com. That's CarlaTemis.com.
I haven't had the chance to do that in a long time. That's another running theme. This time, everybody will see, because this is not going to be a podcast episode. I'm using my pen, so there's nothing dirty about that.
Yes, because inanimate objects are never, ever used in dirty
Never.
ways. Never.
Well, you know what I always say, you don't want to follow me anymore on Twitter, because whatever that place is anymore, it's such a bummer to me still what's happened to Twitter. But you still want to follow Fergie on TikTok, because at the Dream Makers, we do have a dream of Cocaine Fergie starring Penn Badgley as Fergie's owner. Remember Penn? No love scenes, no romantic partner. You are just the loyal owner of Fergie, and she kills people, but you still love her. She doesn't really kill people in real life, by the way, people.
This time you don't have to be the murderer, okay?
Yes, you don't have to. You just have to be her loving owner. That's all. So reach out to us, Penn. I know you're not that busy. Just kidding. I meant that as a joke, because I know he is busy. But go follow Fergie on TikTok at Schroeder and Fergs. That's SCHROEDERANDFERGS. It's long, but it's worth it. I did do a second Cocaine Fergie video up there. I just did one of her on our TikTok at It's a Fandom Thing Pod, of her watching Abbott Elementary. And I put it up there because we're going to be talking about Abbott Elementary at the end of May. And Carla is going to be on that one. So, and she loves watching horror, but there's something about Abbott Elementary that every time I turn it on, she jumps up in her chair and just sits there like she's learning, like she's at attention. It's the
Everybody loves Abbott, though.
yes, and she's just one of them. So go follow us on TikTok at It's a Fandom Thing Pod, and you can see that and other little videos there. Be sure to like the show on Facebook at facebook.com/It's a Fandom Thing Pod, on Twitter at Fandom Thing Pod. No, it's in that one. On Instagram at It's a Fandom Thing Pod. If you have any feedback, show notes, if you would like to be a potential interview guest, or if you would like to be part of our upcoming May 20th marathon streaming event, you get 12 hours of this. I mean, Carla's not going to be there though, 12 hours, but I will. I think. Go to our website, it's a fandomthingpod.com. There's a page for the May 20th marathon streaming event. We do have a couple of spaces open, but they are filling up. So please reach out to us as soon as you can. If you aren't able to come on that day, like you're busy that day, we are allowing a few pre-recorded segments. So please feel free to reach out to us, even if it has to be pre-recorded, and we can potentially work something out. And speaking of that, and since this is live right now, if you watch this before 9 a.m. Mountain Standard Time on Friday the 22nd, and you have a question for the amazing Neil Fraser from Neil Fraser Graphics, who he is an award-winning poster, key, book cover artist. He does incredible work. You can't really see it too well, but the poster back there of Freddie, Michael, and Jason, he did that for us for our very first horror trivia event, and it's a beautiful, amazing poster. It's honestly my favorite piece of horror fandom merch that I have, but he's incredibly talented, and I'm doing a pre-recorded segment with him. And so if you have a question for him, get it to me before then, and I will make sure to answer. I will answer it for him. Just kidding, Neil.
Put aside, Neil. I got this one.
How do you get? It'll be something about doing. It'll be like, oh, this is how. Of course. But reach out to us, DM us, contact us on social media. I'll be reposting it again in our Instagram stories. So, yes. And, since this is on YouTube, I know I am going to be trying to do more video episodes. They might not be live, but they'll be video episodes. Some of our panelists don't like to be on camera, but for our panelists that do, we're going to start doing more video releases of our episodes on YouTube with our podcast channel. You'll see it on there. I know that a lot of people are discovering podcasts through YouTube now. So so we're going to start doing a lot more of those. And so, but the next video episode will have, there's actually many interviews with some of the cast of From. So that will be up on Monday. And then as far as episodes go, regular episodes, look for our episode talking about reality bites coming up this Friday. And then next week, we are rounding out Gen X month with a look at Clerks. And then we also have another interview coming out next week. I think I'm going to release it on Tuesday with Chaz Bono, who is in a new movie that'll be released on Tubi. It's a Tubi original that'll be released on this Saturday, the 22nd. Remember, Tubi's free, and it is called Bury the Bride. And I'm not going to tell you what the twist is. When I was interviewing Chaz, we were both like, it's so hard because you really want to talk about the twist. But 30 minutes in, I was watching it by myself. And I audibly gasped. So so there you go.
That's how you know that the twist is twisty.
It's a very twisty twist. So look for that interview as well. And so we will see you next Wednesday, same time, same, don't they always say same bat channel, whatever it is they say?
Probably not the same place. Hopefully not my mom's closet.
Oh, that's where you are. I was wondering where you were. I don't want to be too nosy, but where is she?
I'm in my bunker.
I'm in my bunker. Speaking
This is where I keep all my frozen friends.
Oh God.
But not their ears. Their ears are separate.
Okay. On that note, we will see. It'll be the Wild Women of Podcasting. Hopefully, all three of us next Wednesday. Ta-ta. Ta-ta.
Ta-ta.
Good night.
Good night, everybody.
I hit end and then it goes.